Hey, this is Miami Realty Rundown. My name is Ideal, and this is.
I'm Carlos.
And today we'll be talking about the buyer process.
So I'm glad you brought that up because I think there's a lot of people or a lot of buyers, especially new buyers, that just don't really understand the process.
Yes,
So I think the point of this show today for them is to kind of break it down so that they have a better idea when they actually go and purchase a property.
exactly. So, whenever we have a phone call of a buyer that says, "Hey, I'm interested in buying a home. What are the steps that I need to take?" And that's where we kind of guide them and help them little by little
Right.
from the very beginning. Most of them, like you said, don't know what to do or where to start or who to contact, and they don't even know what forms they'll need,
Yes.
to start. So
Right.
let's talk about that
Yeah,
really
because I
quick.
actually had one client recently that was completely green. They knew nothing. So I had to like really, chew the information
Yeah,
and spoon feed them because they didn't get it at all. So I thought of the show that it should be this because of that.
exactly.
So
Great.
okay, great. So all right, so we start off with obviously they want to buy their first property.
Correct.
So obviously call a realtor, number one. Only because it makes it easier for you, right? So if you're doing it on your own, then and you don't know what you're doing, then somewhere along the line, it's either going to get really complicated, or you're going to miss out on opportunities, and you're going to possibly make a mistake that can cost you money.
In addition to that, we have your back, right? Like we're here to help you, guide you, make sure you're not getting into any sort of trouble or that on the other end they're taking advantage of you,
Right.
which is what we try to avoid.
Exactly. So obviously, okay, so we call a realtor. Step number one. All right. So then we start looking for a property. Now you want to give that realtor what you're looking for: number of bedrooms, bathrooms, more or less, square footage if possible, what you feel comfortable with, right? And then we can speak to a lender because then we got to figure out whether or not you can approve, you're qualified
Qualified.
for a loan of that size property or in the neighborhood that you want to be in.
Correct. So some of the things that the lender will ask you for is first a copy of your driver's license, last three pay stubs, last three bank statements, and your last two W-2s. With that, what they do is they pretty much create like a file for you. They'll check your debt to income ratio versus what your income is, right? So they'll come up with a number, and that number is what you basically qualify for based off of the information you give them. So once they have that information, they give us that pre-qualification letter or pre-approval, um, and then we can basically start home shopping.
Right. And with that number is where we can look at what area, hopefully it's in the area that you like, and then we can start searching for properties that fit your criteria, and we can start narrowing them down.
Correct.
Right.
And sometimes people don't qualify for what they would.
A lot of
Correct.
times people don't qualify for what they
And
want.
that's okay because even if you don't qualify, we can still work towards that goal, maybe within the next 6 months or the next year. It doesn't have to be something that, oh, I cannot purchase a home and that's the end of that. No, it is sometimes we just work on credit, we, save up more money, whatever the case may be, but it is something that can be worked on. Sometimes people say, oh, and they lose hope, right? But
Yes,
that's not the case.
and you can easily lose hope. So we're trying to avoid that. And even if it isn't, like Ideal said, even if it isn't now, we can always work on doing it somewhere down the future. Like your credit may not be where it needs to be,
Correct.
or your income. Maybe you need to reduce debt. Debt is a big thing that lenders look at. So you want to make sure that all the numbers are in place so that we can get you into that property that you're looking for and not have a problem once we're under contract
Mm,
with not being able to qualify.
mm-hmm.
Because the pre-approval is step one, and then they actually dig into your finances once you're under contract, and then that's sometimes where the problems arise.
Correct. So let's say that you are pre-approved. We start home shopping. We find the home that you love. Um, we put in a contract. We make an offer. They accept your offer. The first thing that we do is order the inspection right
Day
off the
one,
bat.
right
Day
off the
one,
bat.
we need to know what's wrong with the home, the conditions. They check for insurance purposes,
Mm-hmm.
a 4 point. They'll check plumbing, electrical, roof, attic,
Right.
the foundation of the home, just to make sure that the home you are purchasing is in the right condition for you to be able to live in it, and it's habitable. um, Once we are in that inspection period, you have the opportunity to either back out because the home doesn't fit the criteria as
Right.
far as like safety.
And that point is actually one of the more important ones,
Yeah,
because in our contract we usually put between 5 and 7 days for you to inspect the property. Sometimes we can do longer, but we really don't recommend it because you want to obviously make your offer as attractive as you possibly can.
right.
So we kind of limit it to 5 and 7 days. At least I do. I don't know about you.
Me too.
But so that is really the only time period that you have to cancel the contract without really giving any reason. So if you find something that you don't like about the property, or it has maybe you need to put in too much money to bring it to where you might, need to repair an AC, or the roof is slightly damaged and you need to replace it, then that's where you can say, okay, look, this is too much for me. And then that's the only time period you really have to back out.
Correct. Without losing your deposit,
Right.
right? Which is one thing we forgot to mention is as soon as we go into contract, we have 3 days to put in your first initial deposit, which is your escrow. Anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000, 15,000. Typically, I choose to work with 3 to 5% of the purchase price.
Yes.
Why? Because it shows the seller that you're a serious buyer, right? So, the
Yeah,
less
you have
money you
skin in the
put,
game.
correct.
Right.
Exactly. That you want this home, you're serious, you're not wasting the seller's time. So the more money we put up front, the more serious you look as a buyer, right? We're not playing games, is basically what we're trying to say. So because it's a serious deal and it's a lot of money up front, we want to make sure that that money does go back to you during that inspection period, which is why we do that. Who's under contract, we're calling the inspection company.
Mm-hmm.
And usually they have the report that same day. So that same day, we'll go over it, we'll dissect it, and that's like Carlos said, we'll decide if it's too much money and it's not something you're willing to invest, then we can back out. Sometimes the seller is willing to fix some of those things. We can
Some of them are.
negotiate. Sometimes
Yes.
it's not always, oh, it's a make or break deal. Sometimes the seller does say, hey, look, or we can negotiate and talk to them, and they'll say, okay, look, I'm willing to fix up to 5K or $7,000.
Right.
Like in an instance that I'm going through now, they're fixing because the 4 point didn't pass.
Mm-hmm.
The electrical distribution box outside was burned.
Oh.
The breakers inside, the four lower breakers, are
Right.
abnormally heating
Okay.
up. So when they use a thermal gun, it
That's a
was
big problem.
exactly, so it can
Yes.
catch fire. It's
Yes.
not, so it didn't pass.
Yeah.
There were leaks in the bathroom, which that can be fixed. But because it didn't pass a 4 point, now we're going into negotiations where the seller is fixing all of those things so that we can actually insure the home.
Yes, which is that's one of the main reasons for you doing an inspection, to make sure that there are no issues like that.
Correct.
Right. So in this case, the seller would want to fix it. One, because then the buyer isn't going to be able to get insurance. There's no insurance company that's
With
going
no buyer, really, no
with
matter
no
what,
buyer.
unless it's cash.
Right. And yes, cash. But so there's no insurance company that's going to insure that property. So that means you can't get a loan, because if there's no insurance, there's no loan. So yes, it's in the best interest of that seller to fix that before the closing, so that that buyer can qualify for insurance and hence qualify for a loan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So once we do the inspection, let's say it passes everything, the home is great, we handle negotiations, we're moving forward, right?
Right.
From there, appraisal starts coming in. The bank orders the appraisal so that we know the value of the home. Now, what is the purpose of that? The bank wants to make sure that the home you're purchasing for, I don't know, 450 is actually worth 450, so that you as a buyer are
Or at
not
least 450. Yeah.
correct. So you're not overpaying for this home,
Correct.
or it be under market
Right. Because
value.
remember, the bank is only going to lend you
The money.
the difference between your down payment. So if you're doing, for instance, an FHA, then they're going to lend you 97% of the purchase price. If you're doing conventional or 20% down, then they're going to lend you 80% of the value. So they have to determine what that value is. They're not going to lend you less than, or they're not going to lend you more than what it's worth.
Correct.
So that is a big point in the lending process. And then during that, your lender is going to be asking you for more documents, more pay stubs. They're going to verify your employment. They're going to check your debt. If you have credit cards, they're going to ask you what this is for, what that is for. And then more than sometimes they will ask you to pay certain debt just to improve your credit or your approval with that loan. So
Correct.
look for that as well. Don't be caught by surprise because it does happen every day.
Mm-hmm. They'll ask for a letter to explain, why you lived in this home
Yes.
and then moved to another address, why your name shows different aliases.
Mm-hmm.
The most minimal items, they require a letter of explanation
Mm-hmm.
as to why these things have changed.
Yes.
They'll ask, like Carlos said, for your pay stubs because they want to make sure your job is the same, that you're not getting paid less,
Yes.
that you haven't changed jobs because then that can affect your loan. We
Yeah.
always try to keep everything the same. We're not buying cars, we're not buying furniture, we're not buying anything crazy that will affect our debt, right?
Yeah. There is no buying
Of any
of
sort.
anything when
No,
you're buying a
nothing.
house. Don't go take out a new credit card. Don't go buy furniture for the house. Don't buy the boat that you want to park in the backyard.
Because you have the
Don't do
yard
any of that.
now.
Yeah. Don't do any of that because you will ruin everything.
Yes. So we
I
keep everything
actually,
the same.
yeah, I actually had one a couple years back
Oh boy.
where he was making good money. The kid was making really good money. And it turns out that they cut his hours 2 weeks before
Wow.
the date that we needed to get the loan approval or finalized, right? So that's it. It was done. He couldn't buy the house anymore because they cut his pay. They cut his hours by like 10.
Wow.
So he was no longer making the same amount of money. And so all your inspection, all your appraisal, all that went out the window.
So, but let's talk about what happens then, right? Like, even though he wasn't able to buy the home, when you're at this point right before closing, let's let them know that they can get their money back, their escrow at least.
Well, you get your escrow back, right?
Right.
So okay, good point. So you have in your contract, you will have your inspection period. If you choose to cancel, you get back your deposit. Then you have your loan approval period, which is usually I like to give about 30 days because it'll take a bank about 20 to 30 days to go through all your documents meticulously, have the underwriter review those, get the feedback, ask you for this, ask you for that. So you have about 20 to 30 days to get all that done. If for any reason you get to the point where like this gentleman got to, where they cannot give you the loan for some reason or another, what you get is a denial letter.
Correct.
At that point, you can also get your deposit back, and you don't risk that deposit.
Yes. But because it was out of the buyer's hands.
Correct.
Yes.
Now, if you do something to jeopardize your loan,
That's
then that's a
different.
different question.
Yes.
Then it comes into play whether or not your deposit is at risk.
Correct. So let's just say that, everything is going smooth, the appraisal comes back and it's perfect.
Right.
It appraises right at the purchase value. Our next step.
So our next step is obviously we got to finalize. Your bank is supposed to give you a what's called a loan approval letter or a loan commitment. Once you have that, that goes to the title company. Now the title company should have already started their job, and their job is to check your title, right? Make sure that title doesn't have any what do they call it?
Liens.
Liens or encumbrances. More see how many mortgages are outstanding for that seller. They may have one, they may have two. Are there any code violations? Expired permits, open permits, outstanding utilities, and property taxes. More than likely, the property taxes are usually paid every year.
Right.
Even if the owner doesn't pay them, if they have a mortgage, more than likely the mortgage is paying for it,
Mm-hmm.
even if they're behind, because they don't want to lose their position. So that is all taken care of by the title company.
Mm-hmm.
So then, once the title company is done and the loan commitment is in, then we go to the clear to close. Right. So then the bank will send a clear to close to the title company, and we'll start scheduling that closing for everyone to sign. You get your property.
You have your keys, and we're ready to go.
Seller gets his money or her money, and then we're good. So I mean, I don't know if maybe what we said is resonating with everyone, but this is a long process
Mm-hmm.
and it's very meticulous. So going into it blind doesn't benefit you at all.
Correct.
So the more you know, the more you're prepared, I think is it benefits you. And having someone as experienced, whether it's us or another realtor, preferably us, um, we can, mitigate a lot of things that happen in between and negotiate because obviously we're dealing with two different sets of people: lenders, inspectors, appraisers, title companies. There's a lot of people involved
Mhm.
in getting you that property. So, and it's our job really to make sure that everything flows smoothly. And any hiccups that come along the way, our experience helps us mitigate those.
Correct. And there's a lot of behind the scenes that we do that our buyers don't know or
Oh,
our
absolutely.
sellers don't know, right? Like
Exactly.
phone calls, late night emails, making sure that the process is going as smooth as possible,
Yes.
turning in documents, last minute, all of those things are things that tasks that we handle so that our clients don't have to have that hurdle, in addition to the stress of the home buying process,
Yes.
which is not, it's not hard. It's just it's I want to say overwhelming,
It is
right? Because
overwhelming.
you have a lot of emotions going into this. It's
Hmm.
money, it's time, it's the largest investment that you could possibly make. I always give the comparison to buying a car. You can buy a car, but you're buying it for 6 years or leasing it for two
Right.
three years, where a home is supposed to be a
30
30-year
years.
term.
Right.
So that's a long
Yeah.
time, and it's a big investment. You have a mortgage payment, you have your
It's just
electricity.
a lot of responsibility.
It is a
A
lot.
car usually, yeah, it's responsibility, but it's nothing compared to buying a house.
Correct. So it
Um,
helps, to have someone holding you by the hand and guiding you and helping you throughout the whole process so that you can enjoy this process as much as possible.
yeah.
That's why we
And
take on those tasks for
yes,
you.
and if you have a good agent, they'll hold your hand
Yes.
literally the entire way. They will explain everything to you the way it should be, guide you, recommend things. Sometimes, a lot of buyers get caught up on the inspection period,
Yeah.
and oh, they have, this little thing is cracked, or they haven't painted, or this little thing. No, we don't. I'd never recommend any of our buyers to concentrate on the small things. We
Correct.
look at the big things. The
Yes.
roof, is it good? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The AC, is it
Yeah.
good? Okay. The plumbing, the electrical, foundation. Those are the things that make or break a deal. The small things, everyone has wear and tear in their house. Even when you move out, you're going to have little blemishes, on the wall or on the frame of the door, or the door is
Because
a
it's a
little
lived-in
dinged.
house,
Yeah,
so
it's
it's
a
gonna
lived in
have
house.
You can tell it's been used.
And even the new construction,
Oh,
even the new
they're not
construction, they're
perfect.
not perfect.
They're not perfect.
There's no perfection.
Yeah.
That's impossible to find. So you have to compromise in some areas, and the seller would then have to compromise also in some areas, so that again everything flows smoothly.
Correct.
And that's our job to take away stress from you as much as possible, so that it flows and it moves and you get to closing. Do we have to give? Yes. Do you have to give? Obviously. So I think it's like a marriage, right? A short term marriage where I give some of my time and my experience, and you give some of your time and your experiences. So and then hopefully by the end we get to consummate and close.
Exactly.
So I think it works out when everyone works together.
Yes.
So if you do hire a realtor, yes, obviously work together as much as you can with them, and they will work with you definitely. At least I know we will.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and I think you brought up a good segue for our next episode on the behind the scenes.
Yes.
So, yeah, stay tuned for that one. And then we'll catch you on episode 2 with behind the scenes on what we do.
Yes.
So, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching.